Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new day, Black and Red, live from the nation's capital. That's Washington, D.C., to you and me. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first to the Republican and then the socialist. We're giving the professor, Dr. Michael Jones, who's normally the host of this, an evening off. We're praying for his wellness, his recovery, his strength. We are praying for his complete and total healing this particular evening. And I pray that you bear with me tonight as I talk about an issue having come from my nephew's graduation today that I find somewhat debilitating and at the same time salivating towards talking about it. The whole concept of the modern Jim Crow. And I just want everyone to know we're going to go through tonight and look at how we got to this point. Bear with me tonight. There's going to be a lot of talk. There's going to be a lot of information. I'm going to give it to you. I want you to pass it out and give it away. But on a new day, Black and Red, our whole goal is to give you not only a constitutional viewpoint of current affairs, but also a Christian viewpoint of today's affairs. I also want to send a shout out to President Donald Trump. Thank you for recognizing the citizens of Pittsburgh over the citizens of Paris today by walking us out of the Paris Accord, part of the United Nations globalist assault on the sovereignty of America. Great job. Congratulations. One more strike against global warming and the falsetto voices that keep the choir singing that somehow there's a truth to all of this when none exists. I know Mary. Mary's telling me the picture that's used tonight regarding Jim Crow isn't being seen, and I understand, which is one of the major reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. I know there's a great affinity for people to move towards Facebook and Ustream and all the rest of them, but they censor you. I refuse to censor. You got to have the truth, and the truth will make you free. So we're going to talk about modern Jim Crow and the fallacy that comes along with it. In fact, our show is entitled tonight, Conservatism is Not White Supremacy. What the Marxist Ivory Tower won't tell its harvested graduates. I'm just letting you know, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be raw tonight. Let your family and friends know, as Mary Brockman always does. I love you, Mary. Mary is my bouncer. If you diss her, you diss me, you will be dismissed. Ladies and gentlemen, so much that we're going to be talking about tonight, but I want to start us off with a reading, and I'm going to work on having this author come on our program, John Mueller, who has become a friend of the family over the loss of our daughter, Shanice Milton. Written a couple of articles regarding her. He's written a book called Frederick Douglass in Washington, D.C., The Lion of Anacostia. The Lion of Anacostia. If you get a chance to read it, we're going to work on getting him on the air. But I want you all to understand that Frederick Douglass knew what the game plan was. He was a radical Republican of the early 1860s going into the 70s and so on. And Douglass was being considered to be secretary of the district by appointment. And they were attempting to vote him on to the city council at that particular time period, or its city rulership. Um, and Douglass made this point. Douglass said that the only way the Republican Party could crystallize views into law, organize the statute, and enact it to become the rule of life and of the Republic was through a party that is able to elect its candidates. The crowd applauded. Douglass said, any man can have a little party. I can have a little party. You can have a little party, but it will be inefficient and impracticable. But what we want is a true party. Douglass was interrupted by the sounds of agreement from the audience. He concluded his remarks by asking all those who voted for him to pledge their support on election for Chipman, who spoke next. You see, Frederick Douglass understood there is value in winning. What a lot of urban conservatives don't understand is that there is no value in rhetoric. There's no value in being the one. Now, I have a very popular urban conservative talk show at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the Exceptional Conservative Network. That is true. But I hope that my vision, that my mission and my goals are to expand the base of urban conservatism from one man on the air to a multitude on the air to us taking back the city of Washington, D.C. and other urban cities around the country. You see, Douglass understood that winning was important. Not merely showing up, but actually winning. How are we going to start winning? Well, we'll start tonight with our kids leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You know how we get the party started. Our kids lead us in the pledge. And as well, for those who are watching us via live stream, you'll see the big Kahuna flag right over here. For those behind me, you'll see the big flag over here. As we're pledging allegiance, we'll take your right hand, put it over your heart. Unlike what a lot of people did at the graduation today, choosing not to stand or to pledge allegiance, rather sitting there. I just want to let y'all know there are empty spaces available in Syria and Venezuela. You can leave at any moment. But I believe in respecting our nation. So take your right hand, put it over your heart, and let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America. Kids, I want y'all to take it away. Woo! There we go, ladies and gentlemen. I want you all to understand that we have a vision and a mission that's bigger than just popularity. One of those things is to get history right. And tonight we're going to get history right. I'm going to bring it to you from beginning to end, or at least as much of it as I possibly can. But sometimes history begins with the understanding of our beginnings. This is from a minstrel show back in 1941, and it's the song "Jump Jim Crow." Now, some people will not appreciate it, but that's okay. I'm not asking you to appreciate it. I'm not asking you to feel good about it. I'm asking you to open your ears and your mind.
Wheel about and turn about and do just so. Every time I wheel about, I jump Jim Crow. Wheel about and turn about and do just so. Every time I wheel about, I jump Jim Crow. Wheel about and turn about and do just so. Every time I wheel about, I jump Jim Crow.
Jumping Jim Crow. I want you to know, ladies and gentlemen, that in our time period, the segregationists have left the rural and suburban areas of Chicago. They have left portions of Boston. They have left Birmingham. They have left California even. And now they occupy the bastions of liberal America, or at least the progressive America. They occupy our colleges. I want to play this for you in part, and then we'll come back after a break, and then I'll play the rest for you. This is what happened at Harvard University just a few weeks ago.
Harvard grads organized separate commencement for Black students. Hello everyone, Jen here, Golden State Times, and today we have a news story. This one comes courtesy of FoxNews.com, and it says that students at Harvard University raised $27,000 for a graduation ceremony honoring the effort of Black students at the school. Student organizers of the Black Commencement 2017 said it is the first university-wide graduation ceremony for Black students and is designed to celebrate their achievements and struggles at the elite institution with historic ties to slavery. The commencement will take place May the 23rd at Holmes Field near Harvard Law School. More than 120 grads are registered to attend.
When we come back, we will play the rest of the Golden State Times presentation on segregation at Harvard University and how Jim Crow is back bigger than ever.
From day's first light till night's last glimmer, your satisfaction is our responsibility. On the range or in the field of duty, you can rely on Brownell's lifetime guaranteed gun parts, tools, and supplies, anytime, any place. It's how we've done business since 1939. Brownell's.
Good morning.
I'm Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Okay, folks, that's not how it goes. I think I'm Shannon, and you're
so.
Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. We are The Right Way with Shannon and Mike.
Join us from 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
Live on SHR Media.
And on TECN.
Where we'll be talking about all kinds of things.
From sports and politics.
To food and entertainment.
To money.
Family.
And anything else in between.
Community, holidays, all kinds of things.
It'll be great. Join us from 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
Hi, my name is Willie Lawson of The Willie Lawson Show here on the Exceptional Conservative Network. We have a brand new show on at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. We are bound to make you think. We are bound to make you see things differently. We are bound to push you into action for not only your community, but your country. That's the Willie Lawson Show on the Exceptional Conservative Network, 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. See you there.
It's a love story like no other. From God's heart to yours. And for 30 years, it's been at the heart of every book, Bible, CD, gift, and resource from ChristianBook.com. Over 500,000 products, always at the very best value. ChristianBook.com. Everything Christian, because it's our story too.
Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you back to New Day Black and Red as we give you a constitutional and a Christian viewpoint on the issues of the day. The professor will be returning to us next week, hopefully. We're praying for his complete and total recovery, the fullness of his recovery, and to make him whole in the Lord. I want to go back a little over 100 some odd years ago. The first black graduate from Harvard University appeared on the scene. And that was after some over 150 some odd years in which there was no black graduate. In a sense, while perfumed in patriotism and elitism, Harvard was practicing Jim Crow. You see, they were not allowing certain groups to enter their university. Well, things changed over the years. W.B. Du Bois is one of those particular graduates amongst many others. But I want you also to understand something. I believe E.W. Jackson is also a graduate from Harvard University. But I want you also to understand something. The pendulum is swinging back in the direction of the segregationists. You see, those who fought against white supremacy are now embracing black supremacy and justifying it as a social privilege. I want to take you back to a presentation by Golden State Times, and I'm going to be very severe with you all this evening in terms of a lot of information about Jim Crow and about the politics of Dr. Martin Luther King. We take you back to Harvard University.
Similar ceremonies have been organized for students at other schools. It says that Michelle Huggins, the president of the Harvard Black Graduate Student Alliance, said, quote, "It's not about segregation. Students of all racial and ethnic backgrounds will be allowed to attend." Huggins added the students attending this event will also attend the university's official commencement on May the 25th. So the person that organized this is an African American, and is the person that runs the African American, what is it called? Hold on, let's see. The president of the Harvard Black Graduate Student Alliance, something made up by them. Anyways, so they're saying that this has to do nothing about segregation, even though it has everything to do about segregation. But the thing is that they're self-segregating themselves. Okay, this is not some like white group trying to segregate them, because if that would happen, then it would be, front page news everywhere, right? But if they self-segregate themselves, then no one says absolutely anything. And this is ridiculous. And I'm pretty sure it's like a leftist group too that's doing this. And somehow it's starting to seem more and more now that all of these leftist groups, right, all of these SJWs, it's just like a mental disorder nowadays. Okay, it's not about, it has gone from being something crazy to something being all about feelings to something just completely insane.
I want you to understand, Frederick Douglass, unlike the modern day social justice warriors, actually survived slavery. Frederick Douglass actually forgave his slave master. Frederick Douglass died a multimillionaire, married to a white woman. You see, the racial clowns of this day are no different than the ones of the days of Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington, who exploited the guilt and the fears, as well as the hopes and aspirations of a nation. I want you to understand, first and foremost, that the first people who got off the boats came here as communists, but remained here as capitalists. The first people who came to this nation that were black were free. But you won't hear that. Many of the whites that came to this country were indentured servants. That means that they gave in exchange for their life a livelihood to others for a definite period of time, normally about 7 years. The indentured servants were treated as harshly and sometimes more harshly than slaves were. But you don't hear that too often. What you will hear are high school graduates standing up, referring to President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama, and literally ignoring the truth of history, that they are no longer in the White House. They've been replaced. Things change over time. They do indeed. But the more things change, the more things seem to stay the very same. We'll come back to the black graduates at Harvard are self-segregating themselves at their graduation by Golden State Times, but I want to veer from that for a moment for you to get an understanding of how we even get to the point where social justice phenoms are born on the campuses of America. It's not unusual. It is not renegade. It is not something effervescently new. I want to take you very quickly to what is considered the new Jim Crow of our day. In fact, there's a book written by Michelle Alexander, who is a civil rights litigator and legal scholar. Her statement regarding the new Jim Crow is that mass incarceration is the new Jim Crow. Mass incarceration is metaphorically the new Jim Crow, is what she says. She says that the war on crime or the war on drugs in the criminal justice system has created a sense of deprivation in a certain race of people. And if you listen to enough black social justice pioneers, you would agree with Alexander that there is a stunningly comprehensive and well-disguised system of racialized social control that functions in a manner strikingly similar to Jim Crow. The primary targets of the penal system's control can be defined largely by race. They're only after the black man. The white man has privilege and thus is not part of the criminal justice system. Now, mind you, that works very well in urban areas in terms of radical pronunciations and fictitious psychological diagnoses of individuals who feel that they are above the law and thus are able to commit crimes with the verification that they shall be found not guilty in the eyes of the common man rather than the justice system, simply because of the color of their skin and the gender by which they were born. You see, we are to accept that the new Jim Crow is anything that comes against, rather legally or illegally, anything that comes against the black man or the LGBTQ community. This is what we are to gain from all of this. Alexander has concluded that mass incarceration policies, which were swiftly developed and implemented, are a comprehensive and well-disguised system of racialized control that functions in a manner strikingly similar to Jim Crow. But my friends, I want to ask you, if I speak to your children this day, not your great-grandmother, not your grandmother, not your father or mother, but if I spoke with your children's children, would they be able to tell you what Jim Crow was? Would they be able to answer you to the question of how is it that modern day segregationists are given a pass while implicating those who do not practice segregation as racist? Can I tell you who started that practice? Well, he wasn't the first, and he would not be the last, but he was the most powerful in implicating an individual as a racist. And actually, his design is followed today in the modern social justice movement. Now, I want you all to grab the wipes, hold on tight to your chair, because I'm about to say something to you that will probably be censored on YouTube and censored on Facebook and censored on Twitter, but it's got to be heard, and only on this network will you hear such things. They are not laudable lies, but credible truths. The point of the matter is that the originalist and the deceit of implying individuals to be racist, though not really racist, was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Now, I know right now I'm going to tweet this. I'm going to put this in the chat roll. And I know some of you all are right now saying, oh, Lord of Jesus, no, you didn't. No, you ain't talking about Dr. Martin Luther King like that. But I have to give you the truth. The outline of the modern social justice movement starts with Dr. King's assault on Barry Goldwater. Dr. King, who was the president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, wrote these words. This was back in 1964. And Dr. Martin Luther King wrote about Goldwater's nomination. In fact, it was August 1st, 1964, on page 18 of a New York paper. He wrote this editorial. It is both unfortunate and disastrous that the Republican Party has nominated Senator Barry Goldwater as its candidate for the presidency of the United States. In foreign policy, Mr. Goldwater advocates a narrow nationalism. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? A crippling isolationism. Isolationism is what he writes here, forgive me. And a trigger-happy attitude. I want, as you're writing down and noting these descriptions, I want to ask you, have these descriptions changed any as attributes that come from the left towards those who happen to be on the right? In a trigger-happy attitude that could plunge the whole world into the dark abyss of annihilation. I remember Trump stepped out of the Paris Accord, so we will all soon die. Just a happy note. On social and economic issues, Mr. Goldwater represents an unrealistic conservatism that is totally out of touch with the realities of the 20th century. Hear ye, hear ye. Have you heard that before? The issue of poverty throughout this land compels the attention of all citizens of our country. Dr. King's calling for a war on poverty, August 1964. It is our conviction that Senator Goldwater has neither the concern nor the comprehension necessary to grapple with this problem in the fashion that the historical moment dictates. You see, Dr. King was asking for the redistribution of wealth. Goldwater was opposed to that. I digress. It must be made unmistakably clear that the Negro today, and let me just let you know something here, okay, girls? Dr. King used the term Negro. Oh! It must be made unmistakably clear that the Negro today is not struggling for some abstract, vague rights, but for concrete and prompt improvement in his way of life. Now, I want you to understand something. Civil rights is based on vague rights. The way of life is conservatism. But Dr. King betwixt in between those, just as the modern social justice advocates do. Pay attention. Next paragraph. Let us ask, of what profit is it to be able to send his children to an integrated school if the family income is insufficient to buy them school clothes? Here we go again, ladies and gentlemen. Have we not heard this before? Yes, it is the same reiterations of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What will he gain by being permitted to move to an integrated neighborhood if he cannot afford to do so because he is unemployed or has a low-paying job with no future? Wait a minute. How is he moving to an integrated neighborhood at all? Mind you, I digress. Of what advantage is it to the Negro to establish that he can be served in integrated restaurants or accommodated in integrated hotels if he is bound to the kind of financial servitude which will not allow him to take a vacation or even to take his wife out to dine? You see, I want you to understand something. Dr. King is making it poignantly clear that the reason why black people can't go to Denny's is not because of the color of their skin, because they're broke. But that's your fault, not ours. I digress. Negroes must not only have the right to go into any establishment open to the public, but they must also be absorbed into our economic system in such a manner that they can afford to exercise that right. Ladies and gentlemen, he is reiterating words that came out of the mouth of another leftist. Yes, Dr. Martin Luther King was a leftist, a radical leftist, even to the point of being a Marxist. But you won't hear that on other stations, because he is regaled. But the truth of the matter is, he was no different than his father, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. On the urgent issue of civil rights, Senator Goldwater represents a philosophy that is morally indefensible and politically and socially suicidal. While not himself a racist, now I want you to understand what he says here. While not himself a racist, Mr. Goldwater articulates a philosophy which gives aid and comfort to the racist. Not a racist, but a racist. Have you not heard the same thing said before? Modernize for your listening pleasure. Again, this was written August 1964. I have to go to a break right after I do this paragraph here, and we'll come back to it. His candidacy in philosophy will serve as an umbrella under which extremists of all stripes will stand. Notice that extremists do not live in the Democrat Party in Dr. Martin Luther King's world. They only exist in conservatism. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you tonight, conservatism is not racism. We'll be right back with more of the best right after these messages.
So what do you think about ebooks? Maybe you've never read an ebook before, but you're considering giving it a try. Or maybe you've been reluctant to try ebooks because you don't want to buy another expensive electronic device. Or maybe you already enjoy ebooks, but you haven't been able to find titles from your favorite Christian authors. Whatever your situation, ChristianBook.com has the solution. Your trusted source for print books for over 30 years now offers ebooks. Our always free CBD reader allows you to read on the devices you already own without spending money on a new device. Thousands of Christian ebooks at ChristianBook.com means you can shop with confidence and choose from the titles you want. Plus, we are adding new titles all the time. Browse our huge selection of low-priced Christian ebooks the same way you would printed books, only now you can go from shopping to reading in seconds. Simply select the ebook you wish to purchase, confirm your account information, and start reading. Free samples of every ebook are available, so you can preview the book first, before you buy it. Plus, there's no lengthy app downloads and updates. Accessing the CBD Reader is as easy as going to cbdreader.christianbook.com and bookmarking the page. The CBD Reader holds your ebooks and bookmarks for you, no matter what device you're on. So, you can take your entire ebook library wherever you go and pick up right where you left off. Our customizable options make it possible to read your ebooks in different font sizes and styles. Want a large print version? You've got it in seconds with a simple click of the mouse. Already own a dedicated e-reader? Download your ebooks to your computer from your ChristianBook.com account and transfer them to your device. Try ebooks at ChristianBook.com and start reading your favorite books in seconds. Easy, economical, everywhere you want to read. Welcome to ChristianBook.com ebooks.
I'm Ken McClinton, chairman of the Exceptional Conservative Network. Never has the cry for economic liberty been more resounding in urban America than on Election Day 2016. It's the economy. All real change begins with the American entrepreneur. Socialism did not work. Progressivism stole the wealth of individuals and families. You voted for something different, real change. But what does real change look and sound like? It looks like Las Vegas, and it sounds like Freedom Fest 10. Freedom Fest, the world's largest gathering of free minds, is the popular liberty-minded conference at the beautiful Parish Resort in Las Vegas from July 19th to the 22nd. Hear the voices of the urban freedom movement: Deneen Borelli, Larry Elder, Gina Lofton, Helen Rowley, Juan Pablo Arande, and Zayad Abdullah. Share ideas with powerful liberty movement figures like Steve Forbes, Jim Rogers, Anthony Scaramucci, Jennifer Grossman, Naomi Brockwell, Dinesh D'Souza, John Stossel, Lisa Kennedy, Peter Schiff, and our keynote speaker this year, William Shatner. Your money, your liberty, your freedom, your city. Come for the real and return with the change. Register now at freedomfest.com for $100 off the regular registration rate when you use the all caps code TECN. We'll see you there.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you very much. We are certainly back for a New Day Black and Red. I am your host, Exceptional One, Ken McClinton. The professor is taking a night off. We want him back in great health and fullness. We hope that he'll be back with us next Thursday night at 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time. We've been talking about Dr. King and the Dr. King that you don't know about. It's the Dr. King that the establishment GOP and the Democrats don't want you to know about. They want you to cling to their expunged presentation of Dr. King. Dr. King, who received an award honored by Margaret Sanger for abortion in America, which is what we would call modern day genocide in America. I know what I say tonight will be censored by Facebook. I know that it will be censored by YouTube. I know that it will be censored. Professor's 55 today. Praise the Lord. Glory, hallelujah. Happy birthday, Dr. Michael Jones. We love you dearly. Got to make a phone call to him tonight after the show. Tell him that I love him. A lot of people ask, Ken, why do you risk friendships in order to move the network to internet television? Because there I won't be censored. There I can give you the truth and I can back it up so that you can see it, so that you can know it, so that you can believe it for yourself. That's not going to be the case as we move on and on and on over the coming months with Facebook and with Twitter and all the other social media tyrannical gifts of the left. I can't persuade everyone, and that's not my job to coerce, to convince, or convict. That's the Holy Spirit's job. But I must present to you the evidences, and then you must decide for yourself which is the best strategy for moving forward. Dr. Frederick Douglass said winning is all that matters. The winners tell you what your history is. The losers painfully regret the fact that they don't have the power control over controlling the narratives in our history. I want to finish because I know some of you all have never heard Dr. King and these glowingly social justice writings. And you won't if it's left to the establishment GOP or even the racist Democrats to present him. You see, Dr. King was working on changing the narrative of what conservatism was in America. You see, by 1964, having won the Nobel Peace Prize, he was the cat's meow. He was the big cheese, the honcho. He was the one who gave one of the greatest speeches in American history. He was riding high. And people wanted to be a part of that winning that came with Dr. King, except for some of the black revolutionaries of his day, as well as some of the black establishment of his day, who were marching with him in public, but berating him in private. You see, Dr. King was steadfastly moving a Marxist viewpoint into American history. And we were told to embrace him as a god. I digress back to the writings, and these are the final two paragraphs in which he pillories Senator Barry Goldwater. Senator Barry Goldwater, who would not agree with the federal government intervening into the rights of the states. You see, Barry Goldwater wanted the Federalists to stay out. And he wanted the anti-Federalists to maintain their control. But you see, the way Dr. King has narrated what conservatism is, he's turned it all around for you to think that because the Federalists are not involved, then that's racial. Because the federal government isn't regulating everything, including how many light bulbs are in your home and the toilet that you flush and the health care that you have. Do you understand that Dr. King is saying, wait a minute, we need the federal government in everything in our lives? Barry Goldwater was saying the exact opposite. But that's not the way it was presented. The way it was presented is Barry Goldwater, while he may not necessarily be a racist, what he believes in is racism. So doesn't that really make him a racist? So everyone who's a conservative is a racist. And certainly if you are a Negro, Black, colored, or African American, you don't want to be aligned with something that is against yourself. So why would you be a conservative? You have to be a... Let me digress to the writings here. Final two paragraphs. While I have followed a policy of not endorsing political candidates, I feel that the prospect of Senator Goldwater being president of the United States so threatens the health, morality, and survival of our nation that I cannot in good conscience fail to take a stand against what he represents. Do you understand that the reason why Dr. King was so pro-Kennedy is because Kennedy said, I'll go to the jail to get you out. Kennedy was a politician after David's own heart. Goldwater was saying, we need to stay out of it and let the states handle these particular matters. Oh, I know you've been told by Washington, D.C., the Washington 295, 495, 695 elitists that states' rights means you're racist. No, states' rights means you're a constitutionalist. And what rights do states have? They have no rights. Only the people have rights. It's the location of the power center by which they have the expression of their rights. Final paragraph. We pray this prayer. See, now I must involve God in this, because God would not want you to vote for Goldwater, because while he may not be a racist, he believes racist things. We pray this prayer, that God speed the day when the fears of insecurity, the doubts clouding our future, will be transformed. Here's transformation, people. Will be transformed into radiant confidence, into glowing excitement, to reach creative goals, and into an abiding moral balance where justice will roll down like waters, and where the brotherhood of man will be undergirded by a secure and expanding prosperity for all. Do you understand what prosperity for all means? Prosperity for all means socialism. Do you understand that? I hope you do. I hope that you get a very good understanding now. That Dr. King was the preeminent Marxist socialist before President Barack Obama. People say, well, Dr. King wouldn't have approved of everything Professor, well, he's not really a professor or a doctor or a lawyer. He's a president, though. Barack Obama did. I want to let you know something. Based on his writings in 1964, based on his beliefs in 1964, yeah, he would. Now, this will not get me into the good graces of certain people within the King family. How dare you make that assumption, Ken, that he is a socialist Marxist? I don't have to. Dr. King did it for himself. What did Barry Goldwater do? so much as to require the denigration of the greatest speaker in American history? What exactly did he do? Well, he understood something that many of us have run from, and I don't run from at all. I run into a great many moderate Republicans, liberal Republicans, that will say that it is by the pen that we shall be liberated. And I say it is by God that we were liberated in the first place. It is the role of government to protect that liberation. You see, Barry Goldwater declared that the 1964 Civil Rights Act is a dire threat to the liberties of African Americans and will create in America the hallmarks of the police state. The same thing that the Jim Crow, modern day Jim Crow advocates fight against is what their forefathers created in the first place. And Barry Goldwater was saying, you all are so deprived of the illumination of conservatism and so caught up in the emotions of the civil rights movement headed by those on the left, not the right, headed by those on the left, that you can't see the future for the trees of the present or the quicksand of the past. You see, Goldwater was saying, you can call me a racist if you want to, but what I believe in makes us free. When we come back, we'll pick up where Goldwater was, and then we're going to begin to look at Jim Crow so that you get an understanding of why at Harvard University, where they're spending upwards of almost $250,000 per student to take classes there and graduate, that they're beginning to embrace the segregation of their great-great-great-great-grandfathers in the Democrat Party. You're listening to New Day Black and Red. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Exceptional Conservative Show at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages.
Hello, this is Leslie Ann Stoffel with The Real Clear Israel. Join me every Sunday morning at 10:05 Eastern Time on the Exceptional Conservative Network, where we'll be discussing Israel with guests from Israel and around the world.
That's The Real Clear Israel, 10:05 Sunday on the Exceptional Conservative Network. Begin your mornings the right way with some right thinking from me, Perry Drake, your friendly neighborhood drive-by pundit. I want you to join me every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern and 9 a.m. Central Time on the Exceptional Conservative Network. From politics to pop culture to relationships to whatever else is on your mind, we have a great deal to talk about. Join in and let's get the talking started. Well, I hope we're getting some talking started tonight on New Day Black and Red. So glad to have you here. Dave, No Surrender, Milner's in our chat roll. Mary Brockman, my bouncer in chief, is in the chat roll. If you diss her, you diss me, you will be dismissed. Claudia Cheek was here just a few moments ago. So glad to have you all here. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I love Mary Brockman because Mary Brockman is just straight up honest with me. You know, Mary, you look beautiful. Thank you. Mary Brockman said, Alvita may never come on your show again. I will swear to you, she probably won't. Not a lot of conservatives, not a lot of Republicans, not a lot of Democrats like your man right now. Not a lot of people in the radio industry like your man either right now. But there's a reason why I have to do what I got to do. And tonight is one of those reasons. And I thank God that he is protecting Dr. Michael Jones, and I pray for the day that we can join forces on TECN.TV. But I refuse to be censored.
And I refuse to believe that I can submit to the leftist tools of propaganda and be found a savant of truth. I refuse to submit. God didn't put it in Frederick Douglass, and he didn't put it in me. You may not like me. You may not buy me Christmas candy. You may not even come in my chat roll to listen. You may not even listen to my network anymore, but you know what? The one thing that you will know above all else is that night in and night out, live in America, there's one conservative who's keeping it real. When we come back, Barry Goldwater and what he did that offended so many black people that they had to vote for the segregationist party.
I don't know why I like it. I just do.
You're listening to the most influential urban conservative talk show in the entire world. The Exceptional Conservative Show at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. Number one on SHR, number one on TECN. We'll be back right after these messages.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant. From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital. Men of Faith. Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show. It's a new day on New Day, Black and Red.
Good.
Hi there, America. It's Lacey Steigerwald, aka The Raven, and I'm hosting the new show On the Fence, where we discuss perspective above all the noise. Join us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 4 to 6 Eastern, 3 to 5 Central Time for my Central fans. In the first half, we have expert guests who are not only extraordinary Americans, they are ordinary Americans, just like you and me, who want the best for their hometowns and communities at large. Guests like Steve Beeman, financial guru and philanthropist, will join us on Monday. Tuesday, modern day knight in shining armor, Cliff Soseman will be with us to tell us all about honor and courage and commitment. Yes, these are real things. And Friday, none other than Trump advisor and member of the Trump transition team, Richard Manning, who heads up Americans for Limited Government. He will be with us to explain the importance of NAFTA. And in the second half, it's just deep tissue analysis. Join us. You won't want to miss it. On the Fence with your host, Lacey Steigerwald.
With home values up and interest rates near all-time lows, you probably know that now is a great time to refinance, like the Johnsons, who saved $436 a month.
$436 a month?
It's simple. Just go to lendingtree.com, compare loan offers for free, and see how much you could save in just 5 minutes.
Oh, you said the bank gave you the best rate.
Yeah.
Lending Tree. When banks compete, you win.
I have to do everything myself.
Someone is sleeping on the couch tonight.
Hey, it's Jersey Joe, the Reaver, Common Sense. You can catch me every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on shrmedia.com. It's every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, shrmedia.com.
The best late night conservative talk show in America, TECS Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than TECN Sean and TECN Clint. And we're working on integration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best late night conservative Radio.
Pack news. Pack news.
Radio.
Pack news. Pack news.
Radio.
The best late night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever.
Featuring right thinking from the left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where their speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you back to New Day Black and Red, live from the nation's capital. That's Washington, D.C., to you and me. I am your host, the exceptional one, Cameron Clinton, for the evening. I am normally peon-in-chief to the actual host, Dr. Michael Jones. My Dr. Jones is taking a night off. It is his birthday, his 55th birthday. We wish him the happiest of birthday celebrations. We cannot sing it because we'll probably be sued by millions, 4 millions, if we say happy birthday. If we're kind to our friends and families and observe them, we shall be sued. So we were not going to do that, but we do wish you the happiest birthday, Dr. Jones. Jim Crow is what we're talking about tonight. And you might be asking yourself, how is it that Dr. Martin Luther King in 1964, August 1964, just 3 months before the 64 election, where Lyndon Baines Johnson becomes president of the United States of America, how is it that Dr. King illuminates his Marxist calendar? Well, King observed the right return of the Republican Party in 1964 according to Religion in America, U.S. Religion, .blogspot.com. And this was written back in August of 2010, so I will just make certain that you all have this. Oh, Dave No Surrender Milner said he wished the professor a happy 70th birthday on EDL radio. There you go. There you go. That will definitely get him up. I tell you that. Dr. King observed the right return of the Republican Party in 1964 as if we weren't conservative already. The intense anti-government policies of Goldwater and the radical right presence at the GOP convention. It was both unfortunate and disastrous that the Republican Party nominated Barry Goldwater as its candidate for president of the United States, lamented King. In foreign policy, Mr. Goldwater advocated a narrow nationalism. Coming on, I guess tonight I should thank the good people of Pittsburgh for helping us get out of the global warming manifesto at the UN. That's part of that nationalism. A crippling isolationism and a trigger-happy attitude that could plunge the whole world into the dark abyss of annihilation. You see, Democrats haven't changed their rhetoric in a long time. We're getting kind of tired of it. Can you do something new? Just saying. But what did Barry Goldwater do? Well, back in 1964, Barry Goldwater said, "I cannot vote for the Civil Rights Act." Oh, clutch the pearls. Oh, no. Did he make a mistake? Did he do the Kathy Griffin thing and hold a head out or something? Oh, my goodness. Oh, clutch the pearls. Oh, no. Really? Goldwater referred to Dr. Martin Luther King as a demagogue. Oh, Lordy Jesus! Oh! I can imagine people falling out in the streets right now. How dare he call Dr. King a demagogue? A calm environment is equal to an end to sit-ins and freedom rides, is what he refers to in his speech. And then special appeals for special welfare equals desire by African Americans to eat at lunch counters and stay at hotels open to others. At least that's the assertions that people are making about what Goldwater was saying to black people. But Goldwater was against the oncoming police state of America. The same police state in which Harvard graduates now wish to have separate but equal graduations on their campuses to fight against social injustice, you know. "73 people in the U.S. Senate voted for the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But it was not enough to garner the support, since the majority of those who voted for it were Republicans. It was not enough to garner the support of African Americans, especially when you have a conservative like Goldwater running for president. Here's what Goldwater said. There have been few, if any, occasions when the searching of my conscience and the re-examination of my views of our constitutional system have played a greater part in the determination of my vote than they have on this occasion. I am unalterably opposed to discrimination or segregation on the basis of race, color, or creed, or any other basis. Not only my words, but more importantly, my actions through the years have repeatedly demonstrated the sincerity of my feeling in this regard. I want you to understand, I'm going to put this in the chat roll for you. This is where the Democrats learned that if we call you a racist, you will fall back on not the words that you speak from the Constitution, but the actions that you have endeared to your fellow man. You see, if I talk about what I've done in the past, that's sure, that's you. You're not a racist, but what you believe is racist. You see, checkmate for you. You have fallen into their crypt, and you have pulled the soil over you so that they don't have to dig. Goldwater said, I am unalterably opposed to discrimination or segregation on the basis of race, color, or creed, or on any other basis. He should have stopped there, but he didn't. He does what many white and black conservatives do every single day. Didn't you see me give the homeless man some change? Doesn't that make me a good person? Did you not see that I donated books to the library? Does that not make me a good person? Did you not know that I had helped 100 kids get into college? Doesn't that make, you see, you have left the morality and its judgment not to God by your words, but to man by your actions. They have already judged you arrogantly guilty. The submission of further evidence is unnecessary. But it appeases them to be able to say these things, that you are double-minded. How dare you say that, Ken, that I'm double-minded? I'm not double-minded. I believe what I say, and I say what I believe. No, that's not what Goldwater's saying. He said, trust me. Don't you see? I'm a good person. I'm going to tell you all, and I think I've done this annually, and Mary will tell me otherwise if I haven't. I absolve you from all the sins of your forefathers and your fathers. including slavery. So get over your guilt. Get over this ideal that you have even white privilege, because God reigns on the just and the unjust. What you codify as a privilege amongst your cocktail class really is nothing more than an expression of your guilt for crimes committed against you by those who wish to be supreme in their rhetoric over you. But I digress. Let me go back to what Goldwater says. This is fundamentally a matter of the heart. The problems of discrimination can never be cured by laws alone. Can you understand that? I can't force people to stay on my network because I want them to. I can't force people to go with me to TEC TV because I want them to. I can't force you to like me. No matter how hard I try, I can't make you think the way I want you to think unless you're a Democrat and you get into groupthink. But that's another show. I would stop there. No law can make a man love you because of the color of your skin. It makes you feel better, but it doesn't make it an actuality. He goes on to say, but I would be the first to agree that laws can help. Laws carefully considered and weighed in an atmosphere of dispassion, in the absence of political demagoguery, and in the light of fundamental constitutional principles. For example, throughout my 12 years as a member of the Senate Labor and Public Welfare Committee, I have repeatedly offered amendments to bills pertaining to labor that would end discrimination in unions, and repeatedly those amendments have been turned down by the very members of both parties who now so vociferously support the present approach to the solution of our problem. Talk is one thing, action is another, and until the members of this body and the people of this country realize this, there will be no real solution to the problem we face. We'll be right back.
I'm Ken McClinton, chairman of the Exceptional Conservative Network. Never has the cry for economic liberty been more resounding in urban America than on Election Day 2016. It's the economy. All real change begins with the American entrepreneur. Socialism did not work. Progressivism stole the wealth of individuals and families. You voted for something different, real change. But what does real change look and sound like? It looks like Las Vegas, and it sounds like Freedom Fest 10. Freedom Fest, the world's largest gathering of free minds, is a popular liberty-minded conference at the beautiful Paris Resort in Las Vegas from July 19th to the 22nd. Hear the voices of the urban freedom movement: Deneen Borelli, Larry Elder, Gina Lofton, Helen Rowley, Juan Pablo Agrande, and Zayad Abdullah. Share ideas with powerful liberty movement figures like Steve Forbes, Jim Rogers, Anthony Scaramucci, Jennifer Grossman, Naomi Brockwell, Denise D'Souza, John Stossel, Lisa Kennedy, Peter Schiff, and our keynote speaker this year, William Shatner. Your money, your liberty, your freedom, your city. Come for the real and return with the change. Register now at freedomfest.com for $100 off the regular registration rate when you use the all caps code TECN. We'll see you there.
Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you back to New Day Black and Red, live from the nation's capital. Our prayers on this birthday, the 55th birthday of Dr. Michael Jones, are for his complete and total healing. We pray his sincere also celebration on this night. And I do apologize for many of the technical issues that we are having with Ustream and with SHR Media. I want to thank also SHR Media Live and High Plains Pundit Media And as well, Red Nation Rising, 2 a.m. on the Liberty Channel for covering us and keeping us. Want to thank also live streaming, Ustream for the time being that we're on. But I am more and more pronounced of my hopes for TECN TV every single day. I'll just say that. I want to scroll down just a little bit, because it's a very lengthy speech, and I don't want to miss most of it. I'm going to try to do my best to go through all of it. To be sure, a calm environment for the consideration of any law dealing with human relationships is not easily attained. Emotions run high, political pressures become great, and objectivity is at a premium. Nevertheless, deliberation and calmness are indispensable to success. The worst thing you can tell a woman when she's upset is to calm down. The woman known as the left civil rights movement, not the civil rights movement of the right, was built on emotionalism, just as Black liberation theology preached in the churches of America, and faith-based preaching is built on emotionalism. 3 fast songs, 2 slow ones, a hoop and a holler, and God's done something for you. I want you to understand something. That is not how you create law. You can ask Frederick Bastiat that very same thing. Barry Goldwater understood that when we lose our sensibilities, we lose our common sense, and then we lose our senses in the expression of law. But maybe that was too much to tell those on the left back in 1964. How dare you, when we are being racially mistreated by Jim Crow? Goldwater goes on to say, it was in this context that I maintained high hopes for this current legislation. High hopes that, notwithstanding the glaring defects of the measure as it reached us from the other body in the sledgehammer political tactics which produced it, this legislation, through the actions of what was once considered the greatest deliberative body on earth, would emerge in a form both effective for its lofty purposes and acceptable to all freedom-loving people. It is with great sadness that I realize the non-fulfillment of these high hopes. My hopes were shattered when it became clear that emotion and political pressure, not persuasion, not common sense, not deliberation, have become the rule of the day and of the processes of this great body. One has only to review the defeat of common sense amendments to the bill, amendments that would in no way harm it, but would in fact improve it, to realize that political pressure, not persuasion or common sense, has come to rule the consideration of this measure. Oh my goodness, Barry Goldwater, you could tell fake news people would be reporting it today on Rachel Maddow's show, Mad Cow, the Mad Cow Report. They would be saying, Barry Goldwater is calling Dr. King a fool. That's the way it would be presented. But that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is, you all are being swept up by Walter Cronkite and all of the, well, not at that time period, but at least all the news at that time period. What you see on TV is sweeping you up, and you're not thinking about future things that are going to happen to our Constitution because of how you're reacting today. The Constitution was built for a proactive people, not a reactive people. I divert back to Barry Goldwater. He says, I realize fully that the federal government has a responsibility in the field of civil rights. I supported the civil rights bills which were enacted in 1957 and 1960. Amazing. Al Gore can't say that. At least Al Gore's daddy couldn't say that. And my public utterances during the debates on those measures and since revealed clearly the areas in which I feel federal responsibility lies, and federal legislation on the subject can be both effective and appropriate. Many of those areas are encompassed in this bill, and to that extent, I favor it. I wish to make myself perfectly clear. Let me be clear. The two-portion also this bill to which I have constantly and consistently voiced objections, and which are of such overriding significance that they are determinative of my vote on the entire measure, are those which would embark the federal government on a regulatory course of action in the area of so-called public accommodations. This was the same problem in 1876 and 5. That the radical Republicans were pushing for public accommodation bills, and they were rejected soundly. Now the left want to use public accommodations, but you have to understand, Goldwater knew their intentions for the future, while there were people in the streets acting on the present day propaganda. I digress. And in the area of employment, to be precise, Titles 2 and 7 of the bill, I find no constitutional basis for the exercise of federal regulatory authority in either of these areas, and I believe the attempted usurpation of such power to be a grave threat to the very essence of our basic system of government, namely that of a constitutional government in which 50 sovereign states have reserved to themselves and to the people those powers not specifically granted to the central or federal government. Those are Articles 9 and 10 of the Constitution, of the Bill of Rights. If it is the wish of the American people that the federal government should be granted the power to regulate in these two areas and in the manner contemplated by the bill, then I say the Constitution should be so amended as to authorize such action in accordance with the procedures for amending the Constitution, which that great document itself prescribes. What he was saying is, you are using the legislature like you will do in 2008 and 2010 to pass Obamacare. You are using this legislature to devalue the Constitution, and in fact, a coup d'etat is taking place in America. You are destroying the Constitution for the sanctity of saying you are helping black people when you are doing no such. You are defying the Constitution by saying you're helping sick people when you're doing no such. That is not your role, federal government. That is not your right, federal government. That is what he's saying here. But Dr. King wants you to know that Marxism works. Ever try Cuba or Venezuela? Yeah. I say further that this great legislative body to ignore the Constitution and the fundamental concepts of our governmental system is to act in a manner which could ultimately destroy the freedom of all American citizens, including the freedoms of the very persons whose feelings and whose liberties are the major subject of this legislation. My God, was he on fire? My basic objection to this measure is therefore constitutional. It's not racial, it's constitutional. But Dr. King turned it around. ISIS turns it around. The Black Lives Matter people turn it around. You see, they say that it's not constitutional, it's racial. I hope you're getting why I got to do what I got to do. My basic objection to this measure is therefore constitutional. But in addition, I would like to point out to my colleagues in the Senate and to the people of America, regardless of their race, color, or creed, the implications involved in the enforcement of regulatory legislation of this sort. Do you understand? He is saying here that the octopi, okay, will continue to expand, and they will take away your liberties, and they will take away your freedoms, and you will say unto them, I'm doing this for a good reason. Let me divert back to what he says. To give genuine effect to the prohibitions of the bill will require the creation of a federal police force of mammoth proportions. That is called the Fourth Estate. Do you all understand? Barry Goldwater was against the fourth estate before the deep state ever existed. I know y'all want to turn to somebody else and listen to them talk about potato pies and stuff like that. I know, I understand. Barry Goldwater was warning us about deep state long before there were leaks in the Trump presidency. He goes on to say it also bids fair to result in the development of an informer psychology in great areas of our national life, neighbors spying on neighbors, workers spying on workers, businessmen spying on businessmen, where those who would harass their fellow citizens for selfish and narrow purposes will have ample inducement to do so. These, the federal police force, and an informer psychology are the hallmarks of the police state and landmarks in the destruction of a free society. Yes, it was Barry Goldwater who told you that someday there would be a Donald Trump who is dealing with deep state. I repeat again, I am unalterably opposed to discrimination of any sort, and I believe that though the problem is fundamentally one of the heart, some law can help, but not law that embodies features like these. Provisions which fly in the face of the Constitution and which require for their effective execution the creation of a police state. And so, because I am unalterably opposed to any threats to our great system of government and the loss of our God-given liberties, I shall vote no on this bill. This vote will be reluctantly cast because I had hoped to be able to vote yay on this measure, as I have on the civil rights bills which have preceded it. Like I told you, 1957, 1960. But I cannot in good conscience, to the oath that I took when assuming office, cast my vote in the affirmation. With the exceptions of Titles 2 and 7, I could wholeheartedly support this bill. But with their inclusion not measurably improved by the compromise version we have been working on, my vote must be no. If my vote is misconstrued, let it be. I can't wait till we got some real conservatives who can say this. I hope I'm one of those. I hope tonight you understand I'm one of those. I hope that we have someday people who can say, if my vote is misconstrued, let it be. Let me suffer its consequences. What he was saying there is, I know Dr. King has set me up. I know LBJ and the rest of you all are making deals so that blacks would come out in large numbers and vote for the holders of freedom. I know what you're doing. I understand what you're doing. I've been in D.C. alone. What he's saying is, I've been in D.C. a long time. I know what you're doing. It's not racial, it's political. But you're using race to literally prop yourselves up. I understand what you're doing. And I know I'm running for the presidency of the United States of America against Lyndon Baines Johnson, and I know the 64 Act, and I know about the speech. I have a dream. One day. Now, I know. It's coming. I know all that. But I will stand for the Constitution when others wish to tear it down. This is what Barry Goldwater is saying. I want to be one of those Americans that someday when you come to my gravesite, you'll be able to say, Ken stood for the Constitution when all others sought to prevail upon it. Ken sought freedom when all others sought tyranny. Ken believed in capitalism while others sought the compromise of socialism. That's what I want you to be able to say about me. And this is kind of what, in fact, I think it is what Barry Goldwater wants you to think of him. But you've been looking at Barry Goldwater through the prism of moderate GOPers and Democrats who look at Dr. King as a god. Barry Goldwater had it aptly put. He's a demagogue. Let me digress back to the final 4 paragraphs. If my vote is misconstrued, let it be. and let me suffer its consequences. Just let me be judged in this by the real concern I have voiced here, and not by words that others may speak or by what others may say about what I think. My concern extends beyond this single legislative moment. My concern extends beyond any single group in our society. My concern is for the entire nation, for the freedom of all who live in it, and for all who will be born into it. It is the general welfare that must be considered now, not just the special appeals for special welfare. This is the time to attend to the liberties of all. This is my concern, and this is where I stand. Glory be to God. If we could have 100 of them on the Senate floor today. But you won't put them there. Remember Frederick Douglass said you got to put candidates in that win? You won't put them there because you're happy with Lindsey Graham, and you're happy with John McCain, and you're happy with all the other moderate wannabe Democrats that call themselves GOPers that get off that airplane every single day after an election and say, we hoodwinked them again. We bamboozled them again. We got away with it again. What was so devastating about Barry Goldwater and his beliefs? Well, in the next 5 minutes that I have, I want to try to go over with you Barry Goldwater's brochure. I don't know if you've ever read it before, and I hope to have the opportunity to go over with you tonight. In fact, the actual principles of conservatism. But I want you to see the brochure for yourself. Number one, government bureaucracy. He says, I am convinced that most Americans now want to reverse the trend. I think that concern for our vanishing freedoms is genuine. I think that the people's uneasiness in the stifling omnipresence of government has turned into something approaching alarm. But bemoaning the evil will not drive it back, and accusing fingers will not shrink government. What he's saying is talk is cheap. You got to do something. Then he talks about states' rights. The people have long since seen through the spurious suggestion that federal aid comes free. They know that the money comes out of their own pockets and that it is returned to them minus a broker's fee taken by the federal bureaucracy. Have you heard Ron Paul say that? You probably have. They know, too, that the power to decide how that money shall be spent is withdrawn from them and exercised by some planning board deep in the caverns of one of the federal agencies. Central planning is what he's talking about there. They understand this represents a great and perhaps irreparable loss, not only in their wealth, but in their priceless liberty. Regarding civil rights, he said the right to vote, to equal treatment before the law, to hold property, and to the protection of contracts are clearly guaranteed by the 14th and 15th Amendments to the Constitution. These rights should be rigorously enforced. Existing law demands it. What was the problem? Well, throughout America, because I want you to know from California to Maine, there were Jim Crow laws. Throughout America, there was a certain party of segregationists that wanted to keep blacks away from the political power that they would harness if they would just vote for their conservative well-being. They wanted to destroy the black vote, and I'm talking about the Democrat Party and the KKK. He goes on to say, our people must not be herded into the streets for the redress of their grievances. We have better ways, more lasting and more honest ways of doing it. What else did he say? Regarding labor, he says the labor movement was born out of the threat of the loss of freedom through excess of overbearing business monopolies. It has served well to bring the pendulum back from the extreme. I believe that unionism in its proper spirit accomplishes a positive good for the country. He said, I'm not bashing them. I'm just saying that you all are misusing your power. Social Security. I favor a sound Social Security system, and I want to see it strengthened. I want to see every participant receive all the benefits the system provides. And I want to see these benefits paid in dollars with real purchasing power. I want you to know that I am more extreme than Barry Goldwater. I don't want you to have Social Security. I don't want Social Security. But that's another show. Fiscal responsibility. He said government must do everything within its power to guarantee a sound dollar. It can do this by reasonable budgets, by living within the means of the people who pay the bills, and by encouraging the individual enterprise from which the real value of money is formed. The welfare state. We must elect uncommon men to do an uncommon job for an uncommon country. He didn't believe in a welfare state. And finally, here's leadership. I understand what the people of America are saying in this decade. Their message has been heard and understood. The people are now eager for a leader who will restore the constitutional limitations of government, who will mobilize moral force of 180 million people to reduce and to limit the inequitable concentration of power in any government, organization, or economic combine. You see, that was Goldwater. If Goldwater were running today, you probably would call him Ronald Reagan. We'll be right back.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.
Featuring right thinking from the left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
You and I know that American business is built on long nights, hard work, and many sacrifices. We dream of the opportunity of advertising our ideas and products, but our budgets will not allow. What entrepreneur can afford commercial TV advertising rates in urban America? Now you can. Why? It's the spirit of 76. The Exceptional Conservative Network shows and hosts reach more than 250,000 consumers monthly on major partner broadcast networks. Since April 2016, our TECN and TECN.biz websites have over 220,000 visits. We are the alternative media solution for consumers. So what's the bottom line for you? We take your small business message and products into the urban marketplaces, bypassing the corporate media monopolies. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. On Sunday, July 2nd, 2017, TECN.TV with InitLive.tv and MOUtoday.tv will broadcast live via internet television around the world to over 100,000 free and premium channel subscribers daily. We will also campaign to add over 250,000 alternative media subscribers to our live premium channel network from the 250 major U.S. metropolitan cities. With a devoted international audience and over 1 billion impressions of online advertising per month, our internet broadcasting venue offers a tremendous marketing opportunity for sponsors and advertisers. TECN's broadcasts and websites put you in front of the kitchen table decision makers of America. Contact TECN.TV President Ken McClinton, 202-660-1329, extension 0, or Ken McClinton at TECN.biz, and discover how $76 per month for 6 months can make you a competitive business in urban America. Now, this offer is available for a limited time. After July 1, 2017, our advertising and sponsor rates will increase dramatically. Take advantage of this opportunity for life, liberty, and the pursuit of business success. Contact us today.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to New Day Black and Red. I want to read to you what the principles of the Ku Klux Klan were back in 1868. I want you to understand something, that the same social justice miscreants of this day were no different than the Klan of that day. You see, they used propaganda, they used the press, they took their grievances to the streets in the middle of the night, and they terrorized America. I want you to understand that in terms of the appellation, this is what the originalists of the KKK believed was their privilege, in fact. This organization shall be styled and denominated the order of the order of the reverentially acknowledge the majesty and supremacy of the divine being and recognize the goodness and the providence of the same. And we recognize our relation to the United States government, the supremacy of the Constitution, the constitutional laws thereof, and the union of states thereunder. You see, I want you to pay very close attention, because it's not going to be explained to you by the mad cow industry. And there are some establishment oriented radio hosts who won't deal with this particular topic. But the Ku Klux Klan was created to use your faith, to use your constitution, to use your government, to use your children, your media, your very lifeblood, your businesses, to supplant the U.S. Constitution and the U.S. government. They had no real interest in the Constitution, but the social justice advocate clowns will tell you that they did. They had no real identity with constitutional law or governance. You see, they were a terrorist group created by the Democrat Party. Why? Well, according to the character and objects of the order, this is an institution of chivalry, humanity, mercy, and patriotism. See how they wrap themselves up in the godliness perspective? Embodying in its genius and its principles all that is chivalric in conduct, noble in sentiment, generous in manhood, and patriotic in purpose. Its peculiar objects being, first, to protect the weak, the innocent, and the defenseless from the indignities, wrongs, and outrages of the lawless, the violent, and the brutal, to relieve the injured and oppressed, to secure the suffering of the unfortunate, and especially the widows and orphans of Confederate soldiers. Do you understand here? Do you understand that the KKK was draping itself in the patriotism of the Republican Party? The patriotism of the radical Republican. Just as Black Lives Matter does the same thing. Just as ISIS does the same thing. You do it for the good, they do it for the evil. They are the evildoers, and yet you fear them, because you believe you have to justify what you do to make yourself not racist. Second, I want you to know the Democrats haven't changed. They're still segregationists. They're still racist. Second, to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's not true. They wanted to supplant it. And all laws passed in conformity thereto. And to protect the states and the people thereof from all invasion from any source whatever. Third, to aid and assist in the execution of all constitutional laws, and to protect the people from unlawful seizure and from trial, except by their peers in conformity to the laws of the land. I want you to understand something. They had a litmus test. I want you to understand that the KKK had a litmus test. I'll put that in the chat room for you. Number one question is, have you ever been rejected upon application for membership in the KKK, or have you ever been expelled from the same? You get this question? You get this question? You see, if you're not a part of the terrorist group, then we can't vote for you. Are you now, or have you ever been a member of the Radical Republican Party or either of the organizations known as the Loyal League and the Grand Army of the Republic? That was the second question. You know, the answer to that being affirmative would cause your death. They would kill you immediately. Are you opposed to the principles and policy of the Radical Party and to the Loyal League and the Grand Army of the Republic, so far as you are informed of the character and purposes of those organizations? This is a test now. Did you belong to the Federal Army during the last war and fight against the South during the existence of the same? If you answered affirmatively, you were dead immediately. They would have killed you. So the question in Negro neighborhoods, colored neighborhoods, black neighborhoods, African American neighborhoods is, have you ever been a Republican? Have you ever believed in conservatism? Were you ever opposed to Dr. Martin Luther King? Here's a big question for you. Are you opposed to Negro equality, both social and political? This was not a question of the right. This was a question of the left. Your affirmative would have made you a member in good standing. Are you in favor of a white man's government in this country? This is the same party by which Democrats fight to be a part of. Are you in favor of constitutional liberty in a government of equitable laws instead of a government of violence and oppression? Meaning, are you with us or are you against us? Are you with us or are you against us? Next question. Are you in favor of maintaining the constitutional rights of the South? Oh, Nelly. Oh, Nelly. What they're asking you is, are you willing to commit treason? Are you in favor of the re-enfranchisement and emancipation of the white men of the South and the restitution of the Southern people to all their rights alike, proprietary, civil, and political? How you answer that question could result in death. Here's the 10th question. Do you believe in the inalienable right of self-preservation of the people against the exercise of arbitrary and unlicensed power? Do you believe virtually that it's the states who have dominion and not the federal government? You see, when exercised judiciously, you're in accord with the Constitution and thus a threat to the KKK. If done outside, in terms of seeking to supplant the Constitution with a tyranny and terror, no matter how it's draped, whether you are draped in the accolades of the ivory tower or be smitten with the begrudgery of being a common man, if whatever it is, are you for or are you against the U.S. government? You see, Dr. King wanted to wrap states' rights into race, when really states' rights, there are none, but those that have been granted by the 9th and 10th Bill of Rights. Anything that the federal government is not supposed to do, the states are. But what the KKK was saying is, guess what? We supersede that. Jim Crow. I want to give you California for a moment. California was segregationist too. From 1866 to 1947, segregation voting statute enacted 17 Jim Crow laws between 1866 and 1947 in the areas of miscegenation, in education, employment, and residential ordinance passed by the city of San Francisco that required all Chinese inhabitants to live in one area of the city. In 1870, education statute, African and Indian children must attend separate schools. A separate school would be established upon the written request of the parents of 10 such children. A less number may be provided for in separate schools in any other manner. I wanted to tell you about California because unfortunately there are those who are telling you that only the South had Jim Crow. But let me tell you this in the final moment. What makes you conservative is your adherence to God. The first principle of conservatism is this, and I pray I get a chance to come back and talk with you about that. First, the conservative believes that there exists an enduring moral order. That order is made for man, and man is made for it. Human nature is a constant, and moral truths are permanent. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't need separate but equal graduations, and we don't need black students standing up at a graduation swooning over President Barack Obama and never mentioning the current one. What we do need are African American, Negro, colored, and black conservatives that are willing to stand up for the institution of freedom, even if it means you're not likable and not acceptable. We'll be right back.
Featuring right thinking from the left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't, BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your obstacles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Ladies and gentlemen, in just about 180 minutes, something like that. No, not 180 minutes, 180 seconds. There we go. Woo! There goes the physics exam. The Bloviating Zeppelin will be joining us on SHR Media. I will yield the floor to him. But I hope that you got something out of tonight. It wasn't everything that I wanted to tell you about. There are places and things that I wanted to go that I just couldn't get to. But I want you to understand something. The truth about Jim Crow is this. There are those who want you always to think less of yourself than you should. God has given you much to glorify him in. We should focus on doing just that. White supremacy is no better than black supremacy. And in fact, the root of each is envy, jealousy, and hatred. You cannot create laws against hate if you institute hate within the law. Coming up, the Bloviating Zeppelin, Sir Mark. God bless America. It's time for America to bless God. Good night.